a small and fragile woman stood before the powerful Archbishop of New York. He had just spoken words that would make anyone give up, go back to Italy. But she, with a soft voice barely heard, yet full of a strength that seemed otherworldly, replied, "I was sent by Rome, and I think I better stay." Who was this brave woman? How did she, whom everyone said was too weak for religious life, dare to challenge such a great authority? And what mission was so important that she crossed an ocean to a world that did not want her? This is the story of Saint Frances Xavier Cabrini, a story that teaches us that it's not the size of our body that matters, but the size of our heart and our faith. Our journey begins many years before, in a small sunny village in Italy. On July 15, 1850, in the small town of Sant'Angelo Lodigiano, a little girl named Maria Francesca was born. She arrived 2 months early, so small and fragile she fit in her father's palm. Out of 13 siblings, only 4 survived to adulthood, and little Francesca seemed the most fragile of all. But what she lacked in physical strength, she made up for in spirit. Her home was full of love and, above all, faith. Her father, Agostino, was a farmer, and at night, he gathered the family to read stories from the annals of the propagation of the faith. These were tales of brave missionaries traveling to distant lands to speak about God. Francesca was fascinated. Her eyes sparkled listening to adventures in China. While other children dreamed of being princesses or knights, she had a secret dream, to be a missionary in China. There was a little stream near her home. There, little Francesca made paper boats. Inside each one, she placed violet flowers, her little missionaries. With a gentle breath, she set them afloat, imagining they would sail all the way to China. It was a child's game, but in those paper boats sailed a giant faith and a dream that would change the world. She teaches us, from a young age, that no dream is too big when we trust in God. And that faith, even as small as a violet seed, can grow into a tree that bears fruit all over the world. Years passed. Francesca grew, and her dream to serve God only grew stronger. At 13, she went to study at a school to become a teacher, run by nuns called the Daughters of the Sacred Heart. For her, it was like living in paradise. She could live like a religious sister, among religious sisters, learning and praying. When she graduated at 18, full of hope, she knocked on the convent door and asked to join them. The Mother Superior, Mother Grassi, looked at her kindly. She saw in Francesca a soul full of virtues, immense kindness. But she also saw her small, fragile body. With a heavy heart, the mother told her she could not accept her. Religious life was very hard, and she feared Francesca's health would not hold up. It was the first of many rejections. Other religious orders also said no, always for the same reason: her fragile health. Imagine Francesca's pain. The dream of her whole life seemed impossible. But then, Mother Grassi said something that changed everything. Something prophetic. She said, "You were not made for this order. You are called to found another institute, one that will bring new glory to the heart of Jesus." Instead of giving up, Francesca kept those words in her heart. If convent doors closed, she would serve God in another way. She returned home, became a teacher, and devoted her time to caring for the poor and sick in her town. She did not give up. She waited. Here, Saint Francis teaches us one of the most important lessons: perseverance. Even when we hear no, even when doors close, if we trust God, He always opens a window. And the patience to wait for God's timing is a virtue that prepares us for missions even greater than we dreamed. Francesca's patience was rewarded. In 1874, she was called to a difficult mission, to care for an orphanage in Codogno, a place full of problems. For 6 years she worked there, caring for the children with immense love. And it was there, amid difficulties, that other young women saw her strength and faith and joined her. Finally, in 1877, she took her vows and became a bride of Christ. She chose a new name, Sister Frances Xavier Cabrini. great missionary of Asia, the saint who inspired her since childhood. She still dreamed of China. Then, in 1880, the dream Mother Gracie had prophesied became reality. With 7 of the young women who followed her, Mother Cabrini founded her own congregation, the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. They had nothing but giant faith and a burning desire to serve. Their mission was to care for orphans, the sick, the poor, everyone the world forgot. This shows us the virtues of leadership and vision. Mother Cabrini did not wait for someone to call her. She saw a need and, with courage, created a solution. She teaches us that when God gives us a mission, He also gives us the people and strength to fulfill it. The small group of sisters grew quickly. Their work was so blessed that, in a few years, they had homes all over Italy. But Mother Cabrini's heart still beat strongest for one place, China. It was time to ask the Pope's permission. She traveled to Rome and got an audience with Pope Leo XIII. With her heart in her hands, she knelt before him and asked his blessing to go as a missionary to China. The Pope listened carefully. He saw the missionary fire in her eyes. But, to Mother Cabrini's surprise, he shook his head. He pointed to a map and said words that would change history. Not east, my daughter. West. The Pope showed her the United States of America. Thousands of Italian immigrants were arriving there, living in poverty, losing faith, needing help. Go west, said the Pope, and care for my Italian children. Imagine the confusion in Mother Cabrini's heart. Her whole life she dreamed of China. And now her dream was undone by a single phrase. But she did not hesitate. If that was God's will, expressed through the Pope, she would obey. This is perhaps one of Mother Cabrini's greatest lessons, obedience and flexibility. Sometimes we have our own plans, our own dreams. But God has bigger and better plans for us. True faith is trusting God even when we don't understand His ways. With a renewed heart, she gathered her sisters and prepared for the greatest adventure of their lives, crossing the ocean and starting all over in a strange and often hostile land. In 1889, Mother Cabrini and 6 of her sisters landed in New York. The city was nothing like the sunny fields of Italy. It was a noisy, dirty, chaotic place. For the thousands of Italian immigrants arriving, it was a land of promises, but also much suffering. They lived in poor and dangerous neighborhoods, like the famous 5 Points, crowded in old buildings without sanitation, facing prejudice and discrimination every day. To make things worse for Mother Cabrini, the house a countess had promised for her first orphanage was not available. She and her sisters had nowhere to go. Then she went to meet the Archbishop of New York, Michael Corrigan. Instead of help, she found another obstacle. The Archbishop did not like the idea of an Italian orphanage in a wealthy neighborhood, and, seeing all the difficulties, said words that would crush anyone else. You better go back to Italy. But Mother Cabrini was no ordinary person. She looked at the powerful Archbishop, a small woman with fragile health but unshakable faith, and answered with her calm and respectful voice, Your Excellency, the Pope sent me here, and for that reason I think I better stay. The Archbishop was speechless. He saw in that little nun courage and steadfastness he did not expect. He gave in. Mother Cabrini could stay. At that moment, she taught us that true strength does not come from power or authority, but from the certainty that we are doing God's will. With humility and respect, but unshakable faith, she won her first great battle in America. Staying in New York was just the beginning. The Archbishop, still suspicious, gave a hard order. They could only ask for money from other Italian immigrants who were as poor as they were. They were forbidden to ask rich Americans for help. So, what did they do? They went to the streets. Mother Cabrini and her sisters walked through the most dangerous neighborhoods, places even the police disliked going. They knocked on doors in dark, dirty buildings, asking for anything, a piece of bread, a coin, some food. They were not ashamed to beg, because it was not for themselves. It was for the orphan children they found abandoned, for families who had nothing to eat. With the little they gathered, they rented a poorhouse and opened their first orphanage. They taught catechism, gave lessons to children who couldn't go to school, and cared for the sick. It was brutal, exhausting work, but they never gave up. Mother Cabrini shows us here the beauty of humility and hard work. She did not wait for a palace. She started in the mud, in the middle of poverty. She teaches us that charity is not just giving what we have left over, but going out to meet those in need, getting our hands dirty, and serving with love, no matter the conditions. God bless the work of those brave sisters. In just 2 years, what began with a rented house became Columbus Hospital, the first of many. They obtained land in West Park, a beautiful countryside place where they took orphans to breathe fresh air and play in nature. Mother Cabrini's fame spread. Requests came from all over the world. Come to Argentina. We need you in Brazil. Open a school in Nicaragua, a hospital in Chicago. And she went. That fragile woman, barely accepted into religious life, became a giant. She crossed the Atlantic Ocean 23 times, at a time when traveling by ship was dangerous and slow. She rode horses through the Andes Mountains, faced yellow fever and the distrust of many. In 37 years of work, she founded 67 institutions, schools, hospitals, orphanages. One for every year of her life. From Buenos Aires to Paris, from Rio de Janeiro to Chicago, her work flourished. In 1909, she became an American citizen, fully embracing the land the Pope sent her to serve. Her determination was relentless. She teaches us that with practical faith, trusting God but working tirelessly, there are no limits to what we can achieve. She had a global vision and a heart that knew no borders. But perhaps the most incredible story of Mother Cabrini happened after she had already gone to heaven. In 1921, 4 years after her death, at Columbus Hospital she herself founded in New York, a baby named Peter Smith was born perfectly healthy. By law, all children received eye drops to prevent infections. But the nurse, tired after a long day, made a terrible mistake. Instead of the 1% silver nitrate eye drops, she took a bottle with a 50% solution. It was poison, an acid so strong it was used to burn tumors and could even pierce wood. Carefully, she applied the liquid to each of little Peter's eyes. 2 hours later, when she returned, horror. The baby's face was blackened, charred. His eyes were destroyed. The doctors rushed in. One, pale, said to the Mother Superior, "The baby's sight is destroyed. Nothing less than a miracle can help him." The mother, heartbroken but full of faith, replied, "Then let us pray." That night, the sisters gathered in the chapel. They did not pray to just any saint. They prayed to their founder, their mother, Mother Cabrini. They asked her, who loved children so much in life, to intercede for that baby with God. The next morning, the doctors went to examine the baby, expecting the worst. But to everyone's amazement, the eyelids were less swollen. The specialist opened little Peter's eyes and was left breathless. Looking back at him were 2 perfect eyes. The charred skin on his face was healing, smooth like a newborn's. It was impossible. It was a miracle. But the story does not end there. Soon after, the baby caught a terrible pneumonia. His fever reached almost 107 degrees Fahrenheit. At that time, without antibiotics, it was a death sentence. The doctors were desperate. But the Mother Superior, with a confident smile, said, Mother Cabrini did not restore his sight for him to die of pneumonia. And once again, the sisters spent the night in prayer. The next morning, the fever was gone. The pneumonia disappeared. That baby, Peter Smith, grew up, became a priest, and lived a long, happy life with 2 perfect eyes. He always said, "The age of miracles is not over." This miracle shows us the powerful faith that moves mountains and the power of intercession. Mother Cabrini, even in heaven, continued her work of love, showing that God's care for us is infinite. Let's go back a little to 1917. Mother Cabrini was already 67 years old. Her body, always fragile, was tired. She traveled to Chicago to be cared for by her sisters at the Columbus Hospital there. But she could not stop working. On December 21st, a day before her death, she sat in a chair, wrapping sweets. They were Christmas presents for the children of the local Italian school. Her last act on earth was a gesture of love for her children. The next morning, she felt too ill to get up. The sisters visited and cared for her. Just before noon, they found her. She had peacefully gone to heaven. Sitting in her chair, she lived 67 years and founded 67 institutions, one for every year of her life. The telegram sent to all missions worldwide said just one phrase, but it summed everything up. The mother flew to heaven. Her life teaches us about dedication until the end. She did not retire. She did not stop. She loved and served until her last breath, showing that a well-lived life is a life given to others. The world mourned the death of the mother of immigrants. Her body was taken by train from Chicago to New York. In West Park, the place she loved so much, 100 of her orphans, all dressed in white and holding lilies, formed a circle around her coffin. It was the farewell of her sons and daughters. But her work did not die. On the day of her death, more than 1,000 missionary sisters continued her work around the world. And the Catholic Church recognized her holiness. In 1938, she was beatified. Young Peter Smith, at 17 years old, was there in Rome, witnessing with his perfectly healed eyes. Finally, in 1946, she was declared a saint, the first American citizen to receive this honor. And in 1950, she was named the Universal Patroness of Immigrants. The legacy of Saint Frances Cabrini is immense. Her work continues today in 15 countries on 6 continents. She left us an example of holiness that we can all follow. Frances Cabrini was born small and fragile. Everyone said she was too weak, but she had something no illness could destroy, a giant heart full of love and unshakable faith in God. She was rejected but persevered. Her dreams were changed, but she obeyed. She faced prejudice and poverty, but continued with courage and humility. She worked tirelessly for 37 years in her congregation with a determination that seemed impossible. And even after she died, her love continued to work miracles. Saint Frances Xavier Cabrini teaches us that no matter how small or weak you feel, God can do great things through you. She shows us that difficulties are not the end, but an opportunity for faith to grow, and that a life given to others is the happiest life there is. If she could do it, so can you. Never give up on your dreams. Trust God. Work hard. Love others. And you too can be a hero, a heroine, a saint in your everyday life. This was the story of Saint Frances Xavier Cabrini. May her life inspire yours.